we'll let people get in here before we start legit chatting about
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, I mean, we'll just see. I wouldn't mind grabbing Justin Fields with the Bears. I think he's going into a pretty good situation,
Oh yeah.
But there's the three things that, hold me back with him. It's Nagy and it's an Ohio State quarterback that is inexperienced at the pro level. And Ohio State quarterbacks haven't been good in recent years. And that's my skepticism with Mac Jones too. There hasn't been a really good Alabama quarterback since Namath. So I don't know if it's because they play at such a high level in college and they have so much talent around them that they look better than they are. I don't know, so.
Yeah. And we are officially live. I hope you know that.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for people to roll in.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll get this started the right way though, with nobody here or a bunch of people here. How's it going, everyone? I am Indy Sean 45.
I'm Irish Benjamin 57, and welcome into the show.
Yes, we are the two Irish brothers. It's great to be back after a week off. So we got one person in here.
I can take a guess.
Yeah? Who's that? Who do you think it is?
That Roll Tide guy. I can't.
Dwayne. Yep. Dwayne. He's here.
I was blanking.
How's it going, Dwayne?
I actually know quite a few Alabama fans, so I get names mixed up pretty easily. So
right, I gotcha. It's actually funny that as small as our show is, we've drawn a number of Alabama fans, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, there are three people I know just at my work, not at the building I work at now, but just in my work alone that are Alabama fans. So,
but yeah, Dwayne, it's nice to see that you were able to make it. I knew you said you were on a trip, so you made it. It's awesome to have you here as always. We're just waiting for a few more people before we really get going with the conversation. But
yeah, I got all the Notre Dame players pulled up for the draft. I should probably pull up Alabama too, since they were pretty much the talk of the draft.
Yeah, because I know you had
well, I know the big names. I mean, I know like Najee and and Waddle, but a couple of the other guys, and Mac Jones, of course.
Then wasn't that what's his name? Landon Dickerson, center or guard?
Oh, that sounds right.
Yeah, he went. I know he went in the pretty early in the second round. I forget to who though.
Yeah, so there was 9 guys taken for Alabama.
Well, of course, Devontae Smith going to I think Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool, Dwayne. You do what you got to do, man.
Pardon me. Notre Dame was only one player short of Alabama getting drafted wise.
You want to go out, buddy, or you want to be on the show? My cat here is bugging the heck out of me, and I don't know exactly what he wants.
I'll pull up your Bears.
I got him pulled up. Otherwise,
Bears, just so I know names and stuff too.
You know, what was really interesting was I think it was either the 5th or the 6th round. There was a kid from. What are you doing? You want to get out? Okay, you wanted to get out. Like I said, something else we could have taken bets on is what did my cat want to do? Was he trying to play or was he wanting to get out? Safe to say he wanted to get out. But I think what was really funny is in the 5th or 6th round, and I forget which team picked him, but there was a kid, this offensive lineman from a Division III school that got drafted. I forget his name.
I saw that.
Out of Wisconsin, some offensive lineman out of Wisconsin.
Whitewater. Yeah.
Yeah. Wisconsin Whitewater had a kid get drafted. But that kid has size, though. I'll give him that.
Yeah, probably just one of those guys that slipped through the cracks, Because I mean, sometimes that happens. There are some big name guys in the NFL that it's like, man, how in the world did nobody like college wise go after him, like big names? So,
it's in. Of course, a lot of the times it's in the later rounds, but obviously, as we know, there's been times where the FCS guys go in the first round, like Carson Wentz and Trey Lance recently. Then even back in the day, and the 1983 draft, for example, quarterback Ken O'Brien, he goes in the late 20s to the New York Jets, and he was from Cal Davis.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like the Carson Wentz and Lance situation, I mean, North Dakota State has been just an absolute force in the last decade in football. So, I mean, I don't care what level you're at. When you're going for multiple national titles at any level, people are going to take notice of you, so
it's only a matter of time before North Dakota State goes to the FBS level.
They just got to build that stadium a little bigger, and I think they would be able to do it.
I mean, but then again, we've had other teams that have made the jump, like Texas State, for example. Do you know if they built their stadium up at all? Because I know that one.
I would have to go and look and see size-wise, like what size it was before they jumped and all that. Because, I mean, it might have been the right size and they just hadn't made the jump. But because I don't know.
Because North Dakota State, I think if they made the jump, I think the one conference I could see them being a pretty good fit in would be probably the Mountain West. If we're going geographically, that is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Because, I mean, you got all those teams just hop, skip, and a jump.
Yeah, Mountain West, or possibly
you could always hop over to the Pac-12 if you get enough pull behind you.
Yeah, well, I'd take it I'd take some baby steps if I was an FCS.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, North Dakota State though is a lot different than like Texas State and some of the other guys that made that jump, because I mean, North Dakota State has beaten a number of Division I schools.
Oh, they have.
I mean, they have been that juggernaut killer. That it doesn't matter who they're playing, they push them around. So, I could see them going into a Pac-12 like pretty quick if they can continue to be good. But places like Texas State, when they struggle the way they did and stuff, that's why they don't make that jump. So
right.
Yeah, we'll see. I agree with that. That and them and Illinois State, if Illinois State could ever get a bigger team.
They're on the verge.
It'll be interesting to see what they do against the Fighting Illini this year. Because they almost beat Iowa. I think they lost by 3 points to Iowa, which is not bad at all. Nothing to scoff at. I mean, and then if they beat the Illini, I mean, I know the Illini is not the most powerful team, but if they beat the Illini, that shows they're pretty darn good.
Yeah. So, absolutely. And speaking of Illinois State, some news on the kid that went to Illinois State. That's from the town that I grew up in. Unfortunately, he did not get drafted, but he did get signed by the Denver Broncos as an undrafted free agent.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at the undrafted free agents because I haven't really.
All right. Well, we're at two viewers right now. And I did post earlier that we were going live at 3. So yeah, definitely an earlier start for us. But hey, sometimes we have stuff to do on Sunday nights, so it is what it is. But yeah, you want us to get right into discussing the blue and gold game?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So yesterday, as we know, it was the annual blue and gold game for Notre Dame, or to all you guys, the Notre Dame football spring game.
Yeah.
Blue team 17, gold team 3. It was very. This is what sucks. I get the Peacock Network, which it's free, not a big deal. But I ended up falling asleep after the first quarter, which sucked. So I had to go back and watch some highlights. I had a busy morning yesterday. Give me a break. But I don't know about you, Ben, but talking about the quarterback situation, I still think it's a pretty even race because looking at the stats here, Jack Cohn for the gold team, 18 of 32 passing, 197 yards, no touchdowns, and 1 interception. And then for the blue team, you had Drew Pine, 11 of 23, 146 yards, no touchdown, and he threw an interception as well. So I guess yeah, by the numbers, Cohn has the advantage here, but watching highlights from both those guys and how they were doing, they actually both look pretty good.
Yeah. Well, and then you can't forget Tyler Buckner on Team Blue, who
that's
behind Drew Pine, only had 6 yards less, went 6 for 9 on 140 yards. So, I mean, it's tight. I mean, it's a tight race. And that's interesting. So,
yeah. Passing wise, if you want to talk, specifically completion percentage and passer rating, yeah, Buckner had the best day out of all the quarterbacks. And it was interesting too because they didn't put the red shirt on him, so he was full contact.
Yeah, it was an interesting day for sure. The defense shined a lot more than the offense did. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing or what. But
well, the thing is, we have to remember, and when George was on the show, he made this perfectly clear. It's the spring game. It's a practice. I mean, it's not you're not seeing the whole playbook. Basically myself, trying to put myself in a coach's situation when I was watching this, when I went back and watched it later, I'm looking for fundamentals. I'm looking for just can these guys do the basic things that are asked of them. I'm not worried about which team wins, which team loses here. It's a glorified scrimmage. That's all it is.
Yeah.
I just want to see, which I did see plenty of. I saw, Jack Cohn and Drew Pine both taking shots down the field, which I like seeing. They both look good doing it. And plus you gotta remember too, I mean, you got your best players scattered across both teams here. So no, it's not going to be completely accurate, but,
right.
but yeah, I mean, the defense looked great, even though the offense, there were no passing touchdowns, they still looked pretty solid. All the receivers looked pretty solid. They looked pretty good. Obviously you had guys like Kyle Hamilton and tight end Michael Mayer not playing yesterday.
Right.
So just, you look at some of these numbers here, and again, like I said, don't read too much into them because you're playing yourself.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's just interesting, because I mean, you see some of the other scores from spring games, and they're pretty high up. They're pretty high scores, and then you see Notre Dame's and it's 17-3. So that's, like I said, it's like I don't know if that's good or bad, but like you said, yeah, it's a scrimmage, and they're not busting out all the big plays. But the one thing that is kind of a concerning thing is the fact that Jordan Johnson made no noise yesterday whatsoever.
Yeah, and even glorified scrimmage or not, you want to
go ahead.
I was going to say, glorified scrimmage or not, you want to see your playmakers, your quote unquote dynasty type guys shine a little bit even in the spring game.
Right.
And he only had one target the whole day.
Right. And no catches, no nothing, so that's concerning. I don't know. I mean, I didn't get to physically see the game. I will sit down at some point either today or tomorrow and watch the game in full. But so I can't say like if he played a lot or if he didn't, but just by going by stats, that's not good. On the flip side, though, Lindsey impressed, and he seems to be over that injury bug, which is good because we didn't see him at all last year, And now in the spring game, he was really explosive. So, and that's, what we need. And he was that guy 2 seasons ago before COVID rolled along, that was an explosive playmaker threat, like a Will Fuller type that could just blow by you and stretch the field. So if that Notre Dame passing offense wants to ascend to the next level, we need guys like him to step up.
And if you want my honest opinion, I think looking at the numbers here, I mean, let's look at the targets, for example. Lawrence Keys was targeted 14 times, Braden Lindsey 7 times, Avery Davis 6 times, Joe Wilkins 7 times. I think that right there are going to be your go-to wide receivers. And then, of course, you throw Michael Mayer into the mix. But Lawrence Keys, I mean, that's 14 targets.
Yeah.
So he's emerging. Going by the numbers here, he looks like he could be emerging as your key go-to guy along with Lindsey.
Yeah.
But they both had impressive days. I mean, Lawrence Keys had 115 yards on 5 catches. Lindsey 88 yards on 5 catches. And then even Avery Davis, he hauled in 84 yards on 5 catches. I mean, yeah, you like to see the touchdowns in there, but as Dwayne pointed out in the comment section, spring games are vanilla. It's just great to see the guys on the field, and that's true. That's the most important thing, is giving these guys some game-like reps.
Yeah, full speed as opposed to just practice where, But yeah, so like I said, there's you can't look too far into it, but it's also nice to kind of get that sense of, okay, we're good, where you see guys really doing well and all that. So,
yeah,
all I was happy, and as we started at the beginning, the quarterback race is tight, and it will be very, very interesting to see what happens with the quarterback race, because in recent years we haven't had a quarterback race. I mean, this is the first time in a while that Notre Dame has really had a situation where it's like, okay, who's going to be the starting guy? Like who's going to step up and get that nod? So
yeah, I haven't been used to it for a while.
I mean, it was Everett Golson, and then it was Zaire, and then it was Wimbush, and then it was before Wimbush was Kaiser, and then Wimbush, and then after Wimbush it was Book. I mean, and all those guys were pretty much the clear-cut favorite, the nod immediately. And now we got 3 guys that could potentially, be the starter against Florida State, who's on the horizon. So it's incredible.
Yeah, it is. And Notre Dame 2164. He says, I heard Buckner did really well yesterday. Yeah, we were talking about that before you got here. Number wise, percentage wise and quarterback rating wise, just going off the numbers. He actually had the bet. He was the best of the 3 yesterday. 6 of 9 for. Let me pull it up here. 6 of 9, 140 yards. So he had a rating of 197.3. He also had 1 touchdown on the ground as well.
Yep, but his thing was he did have 1 fumble.
Yes, he did have the 1 fumble. He got it stripped.
But then again, all 3 of the quote unquote starting quarterbacks had a turnover. Buckner threw an interception, or not Buckner. Pine threw an interception, and so did Cone. So, we'll not give him too much crap about that. But
and also that could also mean too that our defense was playing really well too yesterday on both spring teams. So you can't take anything away from that either, because they had the coverage was looking really nice. They were batting down passes, and hell, they had 9 sacks.
Yeah.
So again, I don't know if that leads to another concern with our offensive line, because again, you got to remember too that all the starters are spread out over both these teams. So,
right.
But yeah, there's some things to clean up, obviously, but for the most part, everybody was looking pretty good under the situation, which in this case was a glorified scrimmage.
Yeah. Well, and also with the sacks and stuff. I mean, these guys can't get quote unquote hit as a quarterback. So, I mean, would it have been an actual sack in game time situation? Would it have been, and all that? So
Exactly.
you just don't know. But yeah, we've got a bunch of NFL comments. We will be getting to them very, very soon.
And one last area to cover in the spring game is the running game. You look at those numbers; they don't look the sexiest. But Dexter Williams only had 16 yards, but he only had 3 carries. The one who had the biggest load was Chris Tyree, 43 yards on 10 carries. Sebo Flemister, 11 yards on 7 carries. So, despite that, I still think we have a pretty nice two-headed monster here on our hands coming into the 2021 season.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward and all that. But reading comments. Sorry. Yeah, so we'll see. Like you said, it could be an O-line thing or it might not be. You just don't know. So we shall see.
All right. Well, now we'll get to what everybody wants to talk about based on the comments. The NFL draft. And obviously, anybody who happened to tune in on Thursday night for the first round, I went live on here for when the Bears made their first round pick. Did I say Dexter Williams? I meant Kyren. Sorry. I didn't know that, Walter. I thought I said Kyren, but yes, Kyren Williams and Chris Tyree will be our two-headed monster. But yes, like I was saying, anybody who tuned in saw me go live for when the Bears made their first round pick. Unfortunately, Ben, you had to work.
Yeah.
But I just gotta say it. I'm happy that the Bears traded up and took Justin Fields. I think I think they finally got it right with the quarterback situation.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. A little bit of hope for the Bears because their quarterback situation has not been the greatest in the last couple of years. So
no, and Ryan Pace and head coach Matt Nagy, I mean, they have not had the greatest track record with drafting in the first round in recent years. I mean, really, I would say the best 2 first-round picks that they had, and of course, I mean, we know 2 of the 2 first-rounders were given up in the Khalil Mack trade, but I would say the 2 best that they had were Leonard Floyd, the linebacker out of Georgia, and Roquan Smith, who was also the linebacker out of Georgia. So I think those have been their 2 best picks. But other than that, I mean, I wanted Mitch Trubisky to succeed, but obviously that turned out to be he put up decent numbers in his time there, but he wasn't the answer. Who else? Kevin White obviously was an absolute bust, but he was hurt. And I'm surprised nobody was able to figure that out beforehand. So yeah, I think they finally got it right. 4 tries, they finally got it right.
Yep.
But yeah, so switching gears, talk about your Dolphins, man. How do you feel about what they did in the first round with their first 2 picks?
Pretty good first round. You pick up Waddle, which I'm super happy about. Everybody talked about Smith and how he had to be the guy and all that. And I get nervous with Heisman winners, man. I get real nervous. There has not been a good one since Woodson. And, so I was hoping for either Jamar Chase or Waddle, and we picked up Waddle. So I'm super happy about that. And as Dwayne mentioned, him and Tua reunite. And we saw quite a bit of that in the NFL draft this year. We saw Travis Etienne and Trevor Lawrence both go to the Jags. We saw, of course, Tua and Waddle. And then, I'm trying to think of the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers did that too. And I'm blanking on who they were. But I'll have to look at their picks. But yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of reunite. Oh, and Burrow, and one of his guys were reunited in Cincinnati. So I mean, there have been a lot of familiar faces with each other, and I think that's a good thing. I think those guys were guys that knew each other's quirks and knew each other's chemistry and all that. So, I'm excited. And yeah, with Dwayne, the Dolphins got their speed guy. Devontae Parker's more of a possession guy that'll make a big catch, in traffic, but not exactly the fastest guy on the field. Jakeem Grant was kind of that guy, but he just couldn't stay healthy. So we'll see. We did pick up Fuller, and Fuller has blazing speed, but once again, it's an injury thing. So picking up Waddle, I'm super excited. And then of course, Jalen Phillips.
Did you mean Devontae? Did you mean Devontae Smith?
Yes. Sorry, not.
It's all good. I did it too.
Jalen Phillips getting drafted out of the U was interesting. He was originally basically his career was over for a time, with UCLA due to concussions and stuff. So a little nervous about that because he's playing on the line, but I mean, I'm not gonna cry about it, So it was a good first round for the Dolphins. It could have gone a lot worse, and I'm happy. So
and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pick at number 32 is that Joe Tryon, the edge rusher from Washington. Or are you talking about someone that was picked in the later rounds?
I think it was someone in the later rounds. I'll have to look. But yeah, like I said, there've been a lot of reuniting of players. And to me, like I said, that's a good thing. And it kind of started a few years ago with Luck and Colby Fleener, who both played at Stanford together. So I think a lot of people went off of that kind of blueprint. And then the Rams did that too when they were still in St. Louis. They drafted Tavon Austin and Stedman Bailey, both out of West Virginia. So, and then also the Rams did it again with Trey Mason, and they drafted one of his linemen from Auburn too, and I'm blanking on his name. But yeah, guys that just know each other immediately, and all that. So yeah, I'm excited. I don't know how excited you are, but I'm pretty darn excited.
Well, I'm looking at our overall draft. I mean, Bears trade up in both the first and second rounds. They take Justin Fields, which potential to be our franchise quarterback, which, like I said already, looks like Ryan Pace finally got it right with his picking. And I think, as much as I hate to say this, as much as I like the trade and the trade up and pick of Justin Fields, it was a move of desperation because him and Matt Nagy both are trying to save their jobs. But these are still great picks too. And then you go to the second round, they trade up to pick number 39 from 52, I believe it was, where they were originally at. They take that Taven Jenkins, the offensive tackle out of Oklahoma State, who is basically like having an actual bear on your offensive line. The kid's a beast. I mean, he didn't play last year, because he opted out, but we'll see. I mean, I still like the pick. The kid has the size.
Yeah.
And then they took in the fifth round because they didn't have a fourth round pick because of the trade for Nick Foles, and their third round pick was a part of the trade to get Taven Jenkins. But in the fifth round they picked that Larry Borum, the offensive tackle out of Missouri, who also has some great size. And then there's a few guys here at the end of the draft that I don't really know much about, but they took running back Khalil Herbert out of Virginia Tech, which we need some running back depth behind David Montgomery. And then they took Daz Newsome, the wide receiver out of North Carolina, which is great.
He's going to be a steal. I really do. He was part of that emergence with North Carolina bursting onto the scene.
Yes.
And he did a lot with nothing for a while, and then he became even better when they had a lot around him. So I think he will be an absolute stud.
Yeah, because you match him up with well, of course, this depends on what they do with Allen Robinson, if they're able to sign him to a long-term deal. But you put him up with Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney. I don't know if Anthony Miller's still going to be there or not. Who knows? But then you also add in tight end Cole Kmet and Jimmy Graham in there. I mean, this is a pretty good receiving core for Andy Dalton and Justin Fields to throw to.
Yeah.
And then also in the 6th round, we picked up Thomas Graham Jr., the corner from Oregon. I think he also opted out last year as well. But looking at the highlights of him, pretty a speedy guy back there, can get to the ball. So we definitely need the corner depth after cutting Kyle Fuller. And then I guess this was a part of a trade that I didn't see right away, but we got defensive tackle. How do you say his name? Kyrus Tonga, the defensive lineman from Brigham Young. So I don't know much about him, but it looks like he has the size, and it doesn't hurt to have more defensive linemen. I'll say that much.
Well, yeah, especially with the monsters of Midway.
Yes, absolutely.
It's that Bears way, if you will.
Oh yes.
So,
speaking of Chicago, real quick, I got to mention this. Prayers go out to Steve Mongo McMichael. It's been announced. I think it was a little over a week ago that he has ALS. And he doesn't look the greatest right now. It was Walter Payton's son Jarrett who broke the news, and it looks like Steve McMichael, he can still walk, but he has no use in his arms whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I just I hope he can fight it. I hope he can beat it, but he looks like a shell of his former self.
Yeah.
Lost a lot of weight, and man. But no, let's talk more about your Dolphins, man. You guys had a nice pickup in the 2nd round. You got one of our boys, Liam Eichenberg, for the offensive line.
Yeah. The Dolphins addressed their needs. To me, I've said it multiple times, they're a year ahead of schedule. Pardon me. And they got 2 of the weapons now, and they're bolstering that offensive line. So it's time to put up or shut up for the Dolphins. And the big thing is just getting these guys game ready and getting them on the field. The only thing I was very, very kind of head scratching with was the Hunter Long pick for round 3 as a tight end out of Boston College. I was kind of confused at that because currently have Mike Gesicki and Durham Smythe as the 1 and 2, and Gesicki is the possession guy, and Durham Smythe is more of the blocking tight end. So you're kind of set, and there's a couple other guys behind them. So I didn't understand why that was a pick. And then also we drafted a corner out of Oregon, and we just re-signed like 2 or 3 guys in that position for the Dolphins. So I don't understand those 2 picks unless they know something behind the scenes is going on that I don't know. But both of the guys are good. I'm not going to take anything away from them. I just feel like, you could have drafted another lineman, or you could have gotten a different running back, so I don't know. But overall, it was a really good draft. Nothing complaining wise for me, but just kind of, like I said, a head scratcher with the tight end and cornerback pickups.
Well, here's what you got to remember with tight ends, and believe me, I experienced this last year with Bears fans, because after they drafted Cole Kmet in the 2nd round, all you heard out of Bear fan nation was them bitching about us having at that time like 9 or 10 tight ends on the roster.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But this is what you have to but so many people have to remember is there's still cuts that have to be made yet. Obviously, right. No team is going to keep 10 tight ends on their roster.
Right.
So,
yeah, my thing is just more of the positions filled, like with guys that are proven, is my thing. So unless one of those guys get injured, that position's there. It was kind of like when the Rams took Michael Sam. I don't know if you remember that. And then he didn't make it, and people were griping about the fact that he didn't. Well, they had like 9 guys at that position. It was the most deep position on the team. So, what do you expect is going to happen? And that's kind of my thing with the tight end was more just I get that there are cuts to be made, but the two guys that would potentially get cut to make room for him wouldn't be getting cut. So
Well, here's the thing with him, and I'm keeping all politics out of it. We don't discuss that crap here. But the thing is with him, and this is coming from the NFL scouts, not me. But Sam is what you call a tweener, and there's different types of it. But in his case, being a defensive lineman, a defensive end, he was a tweener in the fact that he was too small to play defensive end, and he wasn't fast enough to play linebacker.
right.
And also on top of that, he didn't play special teams. And I've said a million times, guys get jobs in the NFL for special teams alone.
Yeah.
Hence Sherrick McManus. He's been a lifetime special teams guy. So that's what it was with Sam. It was because he was lacking so much.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're going to go with the guys that are obviously better that can fill those needs.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, both of those were very, very big head scratchers. I mean, like I said, the other one that, like I said, was huge was the guy out of Oregon as a cornerback. I mean, we have Xavier Howard. We drafted Noah Igbenogany last year, and then we just re-signed Byron Jones, and that's 3 cornerbacks right there. And Nick Needham is working with the Dolphins to stay with the team. So now you got 4 guys at the cornerback position, and you drafted one. So I'm like, and 3 of the guys are like legit locks. So I'm like, I don't understand that. But I think I don't know what's going on behind scenes, and I'm not the coach. So
I think what they could be trying to do is to see who really wants it bad enough and figure out who the true locks are for the roster, and then who they could maybe put on their practice squad.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. But
yeah, there's so many scenarios, man.
It's like I said, I just focus on more of the bigger needs, and the bigger needs was the offensive line, and granted we drafted 2, one out of UMass and then of course Liam Eichenberg, but protect your quarterback at all costs, because I don't care how good or how bad guys are on the field. The quarterback can't get the ball to the guys if he has no line.
Yeah. And despite the fact that head scratcher you were talking about with the tight end, I still think the Dolphins had a really nice draft. So I think you're in great shape.
Yeah.
The talent is really starting to come in. Think the big picture is starting to be put together, I think. Or not big picture, the big pieces of the puzzle, I mean. The big pieces of the puzzle are starting to come into place. And yeah.
I want to see how big Kyle Long is. Hunter Long, sorry. Yeah, he's 6'5". Because there's one guy that a lot of people don't talk about with the Dolphins. His name's Adam Shaheen. He's 6'7" as a tight end.
You got him from us.
He's a huge dude. So it's like you would just throw the ball anywhere near him and it'll be there. So I don't know. We'll see. But
well, just the thing is,
talk about the Notre Dame guys that were drafted, because Notre Dame had actually a good draft. We
had 4 of our 5 starters on the offensive line drafted. I will say this though, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, because he was mentioned earlier in the comments, and I was going to get to him. But Ben, are you shocked that he was on the board as long as he was? I'm not trying to be biased here, because
yes and no. I mean, yes, just because of him, but then no, because a lot of offensive players were taken in the first round. So there wasn't a lot of room for him to get picked up in the first round with all the offensive players flying off the board. So
I was going to say that Dallas could have been a good fit for him because of Jalen Smith is there, and but then again, they're already set with the inside linebacker spot, and I don't know if Koramoah could play outside linebacker or not.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm not trying to be biased or anything because I'm a Notre Dame fan. But as good as that guy has been, I was really shocked to see that he was still there and as late in the second round as it was, because I thought he was a for sure first rounder.
Yeah,
but that's just how the draft goes. It just depends on what teams, what their top priority needs are.
Yeah. Yeah, but overall, I mean, 8 players from Notre Dame get drafted. One behind Alabama. Alabama had 9 players. Now, the difference is, of course, Alabama had 6 players taken in the first round, and Notre Dame had none taken in the first round. But, you still got to show it on the field. I don't care if you're a first or a 7th rounder. A lot of guys get cut. So it's hard to make it in the NFL. But, like I said, 8 players taken in the draft is nothing to scoff at.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest surprise, and I think it was Shannon who mentioned it, to me, the biggest surprise was Ian Book going in the 5th round to the New Orleans Saints. Now, nothing against our guy, but when it comes to the NFL, I was thinking that he might have very well been maybe a 7th rounder or a undrafted free agent, but it's like kind of like you said, Ben, the coaches see something that we don't. And
yeah, and I think the big thing that people forget about Ian Book is he has a lot of experience in big games. He doesn't have the championships to show, like Trevor Lawrence and like Mac Jones and even that guy out of North Dakota State,
Trey Lance.
But he's had 2 playoff appearances, in his tenure at Notre Dame. He has played against a number of Power 5 schools, so I mean, he knows how to handle himself in a big game, and that's how it goes in the NFL. There are no small games. Maybe, teams with bad records, but there's going to be no small games in the NFL. So, not to discredit him or give him more hype than he deserves, but I think that might be the reason that guys took a chance on him.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, and like you said, I mean, he was a 3-year starter at Notre Dame, and he has all this experience. I mean, he developed into a leader while he was there, and don't think that scouts don't notice that.
Yeah. Well, and look at his win-loss record too. I mean, the teams that he lost to were teams that you lose to. I mean, you either, barely beat them or you lose. There's not he never really lost a game to a bad team. So
no, five losses.
Georgia, Clemson twice,
Alabama,
and then who am I blanking on? Miami wasn't bad. I mean, Miami was a blowout loss, but it wasn't bad. I mean, they weren't a bad team. They were a really good team. So I'm blanking on the 5th one. That was 4. Who was that 5th I'm thinking of?
Well, I don't think he was a starting quarterback when we lost to Miami in 2017.
Maybe he wasn't.
Well, I know. Yeah, we lost to Clemson twice. Once in the playoffs, once in the ACC championship.
Yeah.
Lost to Alabama in the Rose Bowl.
Yes.
Lost. Michigan.
Michigan. That's who I was thinking of. Yeah, Michigan. Yeah. So I mean, and like I said, those are all Power 5 schools. Those are not, non-Power 5 schools. And on the same thing with the Power 5, they are Power 5 power schools. In Clemson and Alabama, and even Michigan. I mean, Michigan hasn't had the best record the last couple of years, but I mean, they are a lot better than the vast majority of teams, in college football. No offense to anybody, but
and of those 5 losses, those 5-6 losses, however many it was, yeah, I mean, hold on.
Was you?
Yeah, thank you. The 2 of those were, like I said, like we already mentioned, the 2 losses to Georgia. Or no, actually, I take that back. Wimbush was a loser in one of those.
Yeah.
But still, though, the one that Book played, we still could have won that game.
Oh, yeah. Well, both the Georgia matchups, that we could have won both of them easily. I mean,
yeah,
that was where missed opportunities and just the way the cards fell. So,
I mean, the two worst losses, like I think you said it already, were Clemson in the Cotton Bowl and then the Michigan game in 2019. But really, the game against Alabama in the Rose Bowl, that really wasn't as bad as it looked.
Yeah,
Clemson in the ACC championship, yeah, that was pretty bad, but what can you say?
Yeah.
But the bottom line is he has his experience in those big games, and he did win one of them against Clemson, even though Trevor Lawrence didn't play. You still had a quarterback in there in that Uyunglele who was probably going to be better than Lawrence.
He filled those shoes really well. Let's say that. So, but yeah, back to Notre Dame players being drafted. I think Ian Book, is in one of the best positions he can be in for Notre Dame players, and then Koromoa, is in a good position too at the Browns. I mean, the Browns, should be a favorite to go, almost all the way next year. So,
that's another team that is coming along nicely.
So
very nicely.
All of them are in pretty good positions. I mean, Carolina with Tommy Tremble, maybe, the worst situation you can be in as a Notre Dame player, because Eichenberg went to Miami, who's looking to make noise. Aaron Banks went to
San Francisco,
which, I mean, they're still, kind of there. And then, of course, Koromoa to Cleveland, Tommy Tremble to Carolina, who's trying to figure everything out. Tampa Bay is coming off a Super Bowl victory for Robert Hainsey. So, I mean, he's in good hands. And then Ian Book, of course, with New Orleans. I mean, you're going with Drew Brees, so you can't ask for much more than that. And then finally,
Drew Brees is retired.
Right, but I'm saying you're filling into that position.
I misheard you.
I mean, Drew Brees had that place, in good hands when he had it. I mean, they're not
gotcha.
Rebuild.
I thought you said he was going to be behind Drew Brees. I'm like, what is he? Did he get drafted to the announcers booth at NBC?
Yeah, they're not fixing the castle; they're fixing one little room. So, and then Dalen Hayes with Baltimore is not a bad fit at all. I mean, that's a defensive-minded football team, and then Ondiji is with Atlanta, and that's kind of the only other situation where it's like, yeah, we'll see what happens. So,
yeah,
but yeah, good draft for the Notre Dame guys. I'm excited for all of them. There'll definitely be some guys picked up in the undrafted free agent market. But yeah, I'm excited for all those guys.
Yeah, I mean, overall, the draft itself, not just for the Notre Dame guys, but it was overall a fun draft to watch. I enjoyed it. I think both our own teams did pretty well in improving their franchises, and for the most part, I mean, really, when you look at the draft, aside from the trades that were made, it really went as predicted. I mean, you knew that Lawrence and Zach Wilson were going 1 and 2 overall. You knew that San Francisco was picking a quarterback, which they did in Trey Lance, and then after that, it's pretty.
The two Alabama guys that were kind of surprises to me, not that they were drafted, but who got them was Mac Jones with the Patriots, and then Najee Harris with Pittsburgh. I didn't think bigger teams like New England and Pittsburgh would get a stud in one of those guys from Alabama. So we'll see what happens with them.
Yeah, and then I'm just looking at the looking through the first round itself, and yeah, for the most part, really, from 1 to 32. I mean, of course, the teams changed, but the guys went where they were supposed to for the most part.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean,
this was one of the most predictable drafts, I would say.
The only one that I was surprised was J.C. Horn out of South Carolina, the corner. I thought he went a little earlier than expected, but like I said, some guys are just they fit a good scheme for a team. They fit a team scheme, and yeah.
So I mean, we'll see what happens with all of them. If you play fantasy football, you're kind of wondering what's going to happen and salivating to see what does happen.
Right.
Like me, I'm in one of those rare positions. So, but yeah, we're chugging along, and we're getting closer and closer to football. So, and closer to normalcy too. So, I'm excited about all that. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking to eventually get get my shots and get vaccinated and all that. And so, is Reggie Bush still with the Saints?
It's been a while since he's been with the Saints. Let's just say that.
Yeah. I don't even know where he's at right now.
He was in the broadcast booth last time.
That's what I thought, but I wasn't sure. I hadn't heard from him in a long time.
Yeah, no, he's been in the broadcast booth for a few years now, I'd say. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with all of it. It'll be definitely interesting. And one thing that I was thinking about is Florida could be the hotbed for pro football right now. I mean, if you think about it. So
that's what it's looking like.
I mean, if Jacksonville can put everything together and get back to where they were with Blake Bortles when they made that push to get into the Super Bowl, I mean, you could have potentially 3 teams in Florida going for playoffs. Craig, you missed it, but I'll say it again real quick. Great draft by the Dolphins. I'm super excited.
You got the Jaguars who, like you said, who are putting things together. You got Tampa Bay who just won the Super Bowl, and now you got the Dolphins coming along, putting all the pieces together. And you're right. This could be really fun for the NFL in the state of Florida. And we just lost Ben. What happened?
I accidentally clicked on the logo above the thing. So sorry. Yeah. So we'll see what happens with all of it. It'll be interesting, but
well, we got a question too about the spring game. How worried are you guys about the ND offensive line? Not too worried, because like I said earlier at the start,
it's like Sean said earlier, it's glorified practice. So we'll see. We'll go into Florida State and see what happens with them. If we struggle to protect the quarterback against, a Florida State team, then I'll be a little concerned, but I'm not concerned yet.
Yeah, I'm not going to be concerned when you have starters playing for both teams in the blue and gold game, because they're spread out on both sides. So
yeah,
yesterday what we saw was not actually an accurate lineup. I mean, so you're playing against yourselves here. So I wouldn't. What I look for in the spring game is just guys completing the basic fundamentals. How well can they do that?
Right.
What kind of rapport can they form with what kind of rapport can the quarterback form with his receivers and his running backs? That kind of stuff. So I mean,
yeah.
Craig says
guys, we saw 3 out of the 4 guys put up decent numbers. 180 something, 146, 140. I mean, those are all good numbers. So, I mean, as quarterbacks, so I won't complain about that.
Craig says Tyler Buchner should start. LOL. He had a nice day yesterday.
I mean, he had a good day, and that's one day though. And I think the biggest thing for Buchner will be playbook. Can you get the playbook down quick enough for Florida State? Because the big thing that Pine has over both Cone and Buchner is the fact that he knows the playbook.
Yeah.
And I mean the talent's there with Buchner. And the potential's there. But can you put it all together quick enough to make it so you're the starter?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm not anti any of the guys. I'm not anti any of them. I'm on the fence, and I will wait until everything happens. And then same with whoever gets the nod. They get the nod. I'm not going to be sold on them immediately. I'm going to give them a few games to see what they're about. And I mean, Notre Dame has a hard schedule this year, so it'll be interesting.
Notre Dame 2164. I didn't realize they split up the O-line for the and then for the practice game. Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, you had starters on each the blue team and the gold team. So I mean, yeah, things are not going to look completely perfect. I mean, of course, there's some spots in that O-line that aren't filled yet. I mean, so they want to, like any practice game, you're going to want to find out who can fill those shoes, separate guys. That's just, common coaching right there.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, they had guys spread out all over the place.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Let's see. I think we covered mostly all the questions. I want to go back, see if we missed any. Oh, here's one. I hear it might hurt Notre Dame because none of our guys were drafted in the first round. What do you guys think? Well, there's a lot of schools whose guys don't get drafted in the first round.
It doesn't. Position in draft means nothing. Means absolutely nothing. It is all about what you do once you're drafted or once somebody gives you an opportunity. I mean, look where Brady was drafted. That's the biggest example I can give you.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, there's numbers of guys that are that way. I mean, you look at some of the greatest guys in NFL history for position wise and stuff, and I mean, running back wise, quarterback wise, wide receiver wise, there were guys that weren't coming out of big name schools that weren't getting drafted in the first round. So first round does not mean that you're going to be successful at all. I mean, Vince Young, bust. Reggie Bush, okay. Matt Leinart, bust. Robert Griffin III, bust.
I got to say this for the Bears, Cade McNown, bust.
I mean, the list can go on and on and on. Jamarcus Russell, bust. I mean, the numbers go both ways. The list goes on and on and on both ways. I mean,
well, look at another example. Look at all these late round guys going to have great success. I mean, Richard Dent, he was a sixth round pick by the Bears, and he was the Super Bowl MVP.
I mean, if you look at some of the best quarterbacks, we'll just go with quarterbacks.
Sure.
And you look at where they come from. Okay, they aren't big schools. Ben Roethlisberger, Miami of Ohio. Terry Bradshaw, Louisiana Tech. Steve Young, Brigham Young. I mean, Joe Namath was really, other than Peyton Manning, was the guy that came from a big name school. I mean, and Brady came from Michigan, but draft-wise, he wasn't drafted like he was out of Michigan. So, I mean, Joe Montana was out of Notre Dame, but he didn't start as much as people would think he did.
No, I think he only had like maybe 2 years as a full starter.
So, like I said, it doesn't, Tony Romo had a great career, didn't win much, but had a great career, Eastern Illinois. Kurt Warner, Super Bowl MVP, Northern Iowa, sorry. I mean, you don't have to be from the biggest and best program to be successful. You have to be able to play the game, do your assignment, and be willing to improve and do what's needed of you to be successful.
Joanne had a question. What happened to Manti Te'o? Well, he was on last year. He was on the Bears practice squad, and he actually
came over from the Saints.
Yeah, he came over from the Saints, and he played. I don't know if he started it, but he played in the playoff game against the Saints, and I thought he played pretty well. So I'd like to think that maybe someone picks him up somewhere. I don't know. Yeah. Otherwise, I think he could be nearing retirement, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, big name school doesn't mean automatic success. I'm sorry, I mean, guys that are getting chances taken on them come from big name schools, sure, but a lot of the guys that dominate don't come from big name schools in the NFL.
Well, you had mentioned earlier about all the Heisman winners. I mean, look, let's face it, just because you win the Heisman Trophy doesn't mean you're guaranteed to have success. I mean,
the crazy thing is with the Heisman aspect, look at the guy that was right behind the Heisman voting and look at what he did. Andrew Luck, successful career. Peyton Manning, successful career. Adrian Peterson, successful career. But then the guys that won the Heisman didn't have successful careers.
Well, I mean, I think the biggest bust amongst Heisman Trophy winners that I can remember was Eric Crouch, quarterback out of Nebraska. he didn't even make it in a season in the NFL. I think he might have been drafted, but he was drafted as a wide receiver, and he ended up quitting. It was by the Rams, actually, I think, that he was drafted. And I don't even think he made it past I think he might have played in one preseason game, and then that was it. So he never even got to see a full season in the NFL. And this was the Heisman winner.
Yeah. I mean, Archie Griffin, the most successful, quote unquote, college player of all time who won 2 Heismans at Ohio State, did nothing with the Bengals. Nothing. I mean, nothing at all. So, and then there are guys that, who's that? And then they're, making history,
Mm-hmm.
So the whole draft process there's no guarantees at all, ever. I mean, and so not much you can do, and not much, it's just all about wondering what's going to happen. And that's my thing as a fan. You don't know until a lot of things happen. People put way too much stock in X, Y, and Z before there's proof in the pudding.
Yeah.
So,
well, all right, Ben. Is there anything else that you would like to cover?
I got nothing, dude.
Same here for the most part. Just want to let you guys know that the 2 Irish Brothers movies coming along nicely. I have just about half of an outline written, and I know Ben and I will be working on that pretty soon.
Yeah,
or at least starting to. Actually, Shannon asks, Sean, got to ask and change it up for a second. How are the bowl posters and names coming? LOL. Still think it's a great idea. I haven't been working on any. That was a long time ago. I was given that topic a rest for a while. But thank you for asking about it, though. I still have them saved here on my computer, but I just you don't want to run that topic into the ground.
No.
Question for you, Ben.
August 1st. Officially. So we'll see.
I think our defense could be absolutely filthy good this year. What do you guys think is our ceiling on defense? Jeez, I don't know. I mean, I think we're at the point on defense where we're not rebuilding, we're reloading.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on what the offense can do, I mean, you got to be in games and you got to give your defense time to rest too. So, it's a lot of depends on the offense, in my opinion.
Yeah. Hey, Cold as Brian, what's up? You show up just as we're about to end the stream.
It's wide open, dude. It definitely is wide open.
Yeah.
I don't know who's going to be it.
I still think Jack Cohn has a slight edge. Because I'm not kicking Buckner out of the rotation there. I'm not saying he doesn't have a chance or anything like that. But between the two guys, Jack Cohn and Drew Pine, who were getting the significant reps yesterday, I think Cohn might have a slight edge. But it's still wide open. I agree.
It's a 3-quarterback race right now, in my opinion. So it depends on what the guys see behind closed doors and behind the scenes, and then it's up to oh man, and up to what Brian Kelly has to say. So,
yep.
Congrats, Dwayne. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, congratulations. That's awesome. So, yeah, Ben, on that note, I don't have any. I'm officially out of stuff to talk about. I could talk about the Bears all day long, but I don't want to make it just about my team,
Yeah.
I will say this though, it's unbelievable how Bears fans are still unhappy.
Oh yeah, I know. I said, and I was not trying to stir the pot. I was just more like,
No, you read my mind when you posted that. You were reading my freaking mind right there. Nothing pleases these people. I mean, I'm telling you right now, Bears fans and Notre Dame fans have a lot in common. Nothing makes them happy.
Yeah. Well, and Dolphin fans are no better. So
I can't really comment about Dolphins fans because I don't really know Dolphins fans.
I'm in the fan base, I can tell you. They're the same way, and I think it's more just not to make an excuse. I think it's more just when you've had that long of a drought, it's like I'll believe it when I see it. Which I understand, but at the same time, it's like have a little faith.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Well, I mean, obviously the reception for Justin Fields was a lot more positive than negative, but still the negative was making its presence felt. And I remember one guy was saying, "Oh, well, hope Justin Fields is prepared to have his career ruined when he gets to Chicago." And I'm like, if you're a Bears fan, if that's all that you're going to say, then go cheer for somebody else. Same with what I said about the quote unquote realist fans in the Notre Dame fan base. If you have no faith in your team to win, then go cheer for somebody else. I'm tired of this crap because when people say realist is just a way of saying I'm a shit fan and I'm not going to back up my team no matter what.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. So I guess one last question here, because Ben, I know you have stuff to do and I have a few things to do as well, but Craig wants to know if we could see Notre Dame using 2 quarterbacks.
No. Notre Dame is unless something bad happens or unless they're like just absolutely blowing the other team out of the water, Notre Dame is a 1 quarterback team. They've always been that way. So
yeah. The only time I've seen Notre Dame use 2 quarterbacks was the 2014 Music City Bowl.
Yeah.
Because both Golson and Zaire saw a lot of time in that game.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys, well, this is a good place to wrap it up. Thank you all for showing up to watch. I hope we gave you a good show. And on that note, I am ND Sean 45.
I'm Irish Benjamin 67.
And as we always say, God bless, good night, and go Irish.
Go Irish.